and I'll introduce you. This is, tell me if I get it wrong, Josh Corbelli.
Nailed it.
All right, with FindLaw. He's actually in, is it Redding, California?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, I Googled you last night.
I hope it was all good.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to hand it off to you, and then when we get to the point of questions, we'll find a way of managing questions.
Fair enough. Thanks, everybody, for allowing me to be here today. Ryan had given me a bit of an overview of what you guys had covered so far, and I wanted to just start off and cover a recent update for some of you who might not be familiar. Is everybody familiar that there was a Penguin update on Friday?
Yes.
They should be.
They should be. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that or recognize what it is that Penguin is?
Okay, here's one.
Hello. Sorry, my computer is being messed up.
It's all right.
So do you guys have any warnings or any or is it just kind of all of a sudden that there's a big update like this?
Google is very mum is the word. They tend to release big updates like this on Friday afternoon, which is kind of crappy for people who work in the industry. But they don't give any preemptive warnings. They'll always keep their mouth shut. However, they will start to, they oftentimes will do a lot of testing and, tweaking a few things. And so if you follow some of the bigger blogs like Search Engine Land or Search Engine Journal, these types of things, there are people who basically track these updates and changes, and they're able to speculate, hey, you know what, I'm guessing that we're going to get ready for an update coming soon. And just based on the nature of the testing being done, they can probably guess, is it more Panda, is it more Penguin, is it something focused on local? So there's no official word, but there is kind of an educated guess oftentimes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
If anybody has any questions, or you get to the point where you would like to post a question, if you click the little chat icon in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, that'll open up a chat window. And if you just put your name in there, you don't have to, just say I have a question or something. That way you can ask your question, or at least let me know that you have a question, so that I can monitor that and give you the microphone when it's time.
Okay, and I've got that open on my other screen too, so I'll be monitoring that. So this is a quick presentation that Mr. Ryan Dolan put together. There we go. So just basically covering the updates. So Penguin 3.0 rolled out on Friday. Like I said, they tend to roll these bigger ones out on Friday. And I don't know if Ryan covered this, but the way these updates are numbered, right, when you have the first digit as the next integer, so when it goes from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, that signifies a big jump. The smaller jumps are if it would be 3.1, 3.2. So this tended to be a bit of a bigger one. Google claims this was a refresh. So it wasn't as though they were adding additional or modifying signals, but what happened is when the last big Penguin update rolled out, many sites got penalized, and this was a little over a year ago. Many sites got penalized horribly, right? And no matter what they did, there were all these stories of coming back, but that wasn't necessarily the case. Everything you did, it couldn't be realized by Google until they rolled out this refresh. And so historically, big updates like this tend to knock sites down, and it's usually a cause for panic and worry. And that is a bit of the case from what I'm saying, but actually by and large, a lot of these smaller sites have actually benefited from this update. So that's something that's a little contrary to what I've experienced in the past. Impacted about 1% of search queries, which isn't huge, but it's noticeable. Now, Penguin versus Panda, is everybody clear on kind of the general differences between the two? You guys covered that, correct?
Yeah, it's been covered
Okay. Yeah. So Penguin focuses on, links, whereas Panda focuses on content, and that's kind of a generalization. But um, so what we saw when they updated a year ago and the big Penguin disaster happened, um, this is what Google claims, right? Is these kind of generic terms. Um, Reciprocal links or paid links. Well, the thing is defining a paid link is actually kind of hard. If you have a listing on findlaw.com, that's a big directory and you pay to be there. It's a highly authoritative and very qualified site, but you're paying to be there. Same thing with hg.org or Best of the Web or any of these, even Yahoo's directory. You're paying, $200-$300 a year to be there. So that's a little bit harder to find. What they're looking at is kind of these fly-by-night type of low-quality sites. Reciprocal links, if John.com links directly to Eric.com and Eric links right back to John. People used to do that as a method in the past for building internal links. Problem with that is it's pretty easy for Google to recognize, and then also it's just not an effective use of your energy, because the more links you send from one domain to the other, the more diluted each of those quality signals passes on. So you're actually deleting the strength of that reference from doing it multiple times from one domain. And the guest post links, these are all pretty lazy tactics for building links. And you can, to be honest, if you go on to Fiverr.com or Elance or something, I guarantee you'll find somebody who for $5 or $10 says, I'll get you 10,000 inbound links from high quality sources. Most of the time it's just going to be guest blog posts, because what they do is they own a network of websites and they just kind of automate generic posts and submit it as comments in there. So not terribly effective or intelligent. And so, yeah, best way to recover is, in all honesty, try not to get to the place where you'd be penalized. And what that means is, like we just showed. So for you guys, for the average person who doesn't have the budget to hire an SEO person or has a very low budget, the reality is you're probably not going to be building a lot of links. That doesn't mean that's bad. You can actually have really good authoritative links from just a few places and still perform and rank well. And you can do that through various means. I'm sure you guys covered it, but content marketing, which is a term I hate, but essentially getting the word out on external sites to organically drive traffic back to your site, using social media as promotional tools, this type of thing. Is that too baseline? Do you guys already know all this stuff?
That's been covered, but this is all new to everybody, so it doesn't hurt to touch base on it.
Okay. Now, you were mentioning, Kevin, that you guys have access to Moz, right? Moz tools. Have you guys all played around with each of these different tools?
I can tell you I have been.
Yeah.
They've certainly been encouraged to use the Moz tools. I guess I can leave it at that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a blog that I promised myself I would keep up to date, and I think I had 3 or 4 posts before I burned out. In addition to my job at FindLaw, I also take on marketing clients on the side, so I don't have time to promote myself. So when you get into Majestic, we have a paid version. So we're able to see a pretty good deal of links coming in, but with Open Site Explorer, you guys can do the same thing. And I guess why it's important, and it gets back to what is the goal of your site. So if you have a pretty small site, or if you're a brick and mortar store, a coffee shop, for example, in a town, you're probably not going to get hundreds of links, and you probably really don't need them. But for example, when we work with attorneys who are competing in New York, criminal law, which is a hugely competitive niche, you have to get more authoritative signals pointing into you than the other guy, and these other guys aren't going to stop just because they're a few ahead of you. So, when it gets to that level, when you get to opening multiple stores, or when you have competition coming in who is knocking you down in the search engine rankings, then you need to start being able to analyze this stuff. So I'm not going to get into a technical idea behind it, but one of the things that I like about Moz, for example, since you guys have access to it, the rank tracker function is pretty good, right? But one of the problems that people run into with using this information is, if you don't do proper keyword research ahead of time, you're going to be trying to rank for the wrong term. So just because you think, coffee shop Minneapolis should be your target goal, that doesn't necessarily mean that's driving the most traffic volume. It doesn't mean it's going to drive you the right type of customers or visits. So you could be wasting your energy. So use each of these tools, but always have the foundational elements of proper and thorough research before you even jump in there. And once you get in there and you start building and you start figuring out the terms and tracking them, this on-page grader is a, let's see, spelled that wrong. Anyway, it's going slow for me, but the on-page grader is really good for, I put in a term that doesn't even exist, but it'll tell you, how to optimize the on-site stuff. And the on-site optimization is actually, anybody can really do this stuff. Just using common sense. What people who are just starting out in the field tend to do is hyper optimize the title tags, the headers with just a bunch of unnecessary words. You really want to describe what the page is about, as opposed to saying coffee shop Minneapolis, coffee house, best coffee shop. Yeah, you're getting the keywords, but it sounds retarded. So we want to avoid all these things. I'm not going to get into this again. Let me stop rambling. Who's got a question for me?
Okay, we'll open it up to anybody.
Nothing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How many keywords should a company or a website have? I have a company who emailed me like 10 or 20 of them, and I don't know, should I search all of them or just, think of a couple of them as good?
Depends on a few factors, one of which is how many pages is the website?
It's not a lot.
It's got a lot?
It's not a lot.
Oh, it's not a lot. Yeah, so, with that, how are you finding your keywords? Is it just what they sent you and they thought they should be ranking for?
Yeah, so far that's what they want me to do, or at least that's what they think they're selling.
And just out of curiosity, let me try to see this real quick. What is the type of business? What do they do?
Printing and design and marketing.
So, print shop. Yeah. So what I would do, to be honest, is I would figure out, look at each of those pages, make sure they're all separate themes for each of the pages. You don't want, 3 pages on printing products. And when you do that, there are 2 things that I would do. Is I would head over to just Google like this, do a generic search, and then down here, did you guys cover this? These are other searches that people have done, so similar. And the thing about this is these are variants in what is known as LSI, latent semantic indexing. And that's just a fancy way of saying that's Google's version of using synonyms and kind of building out long tail phrases.
This was not covered, by the way.
Okay, good to know. I'm valuable. So LSI, I think there's a site, lsikeywords.com, if you guys want to check it later on. Yeah, lsikeywords.com. And in any case, I would use this, and I would run a couple of searches right? And see what the types of things are. So, yeah, you're a print shop in Minneapolis, but what are people actually searching for? Is it, print shop reviews? Is it, whatever it may be? So I'd run a couple searches, and then I would take those and I would fold them all in, and, you can probably get up to 50 or so ideas. Go to the Google AdWords editor. Did you guys do that?
The AdWords editor?
The AdWords tool, the keyword.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a keyword planner. So I would go and run them in there and see what you come up with. There's also another really good tool. Let me see. Ubersuggest. Did you guys see this one?
No.
Okay.
By the way,
This might
guys,
be a
I
little
am
too
recording this, so I will make this video recording available to you.
And what this will do is it'll work kind of like Google AdWords does, but I think, oh geez Louise. Stick with me, guys. It'll come one day. But in any case, well, it's not working. But when you run this, it'll actually have a very long.
Did we lose you?
You get there? Yeah, I think I lost you for a minute. So in any case, check out this tool. It's not working for me for whatever reason right now, but it'll also give you a long list of ideas for kind of the long tail phrases. This is one I use very often. And then another one and this is all about your question, by the way, the gentleman who asked. These are all things that I would do if I was trying to figure out what type of keywords that I wasn't familiar with. Did you guys look at this? Merge words?
Nope.
Okay. So what you do is you basically come up with 3 columns to mix and match. Let's see. Shop. So what you would do is printing, design. Is it printing, design, and then let's say. Right, so you would come up with a few series and you merge them. And it comes up with all the different combinations of putting one before the other, changing the names, and then you would grab this list. You would go to the Google AdWords editor, and you would throw them in here. Right, and you would see which brings up the biggest search volume. So for whatever it is, that would be how you build out each page's keyword list. Now, you asked how many. There's no set amount, but if you have one generic page on, brochures, for example, I would figure there's probably a good amount of brochure design, bifold brochure, trifold brochure, basically build out the concepts to a number of different likely variations, run them through this tool, and then whatever seems like it's actually going to get some traction, that's what I would use. Does that make sense?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I've got a question that's somewhat similar to that. So
Sure.
my company is actually vacuum metallizing, and what they actually do is not really important. It's the fact of a lot of the people that are searching for this type of thing, they don't really understand what it is that they are wanting to have happen.
Uh-huh.
So say, for example, if they're looking up chrome plating, a vacuum metallizing place creates like chrome. So they'll be receiving a lot of people that are looking to them, but then they realize, oh no, this isn't what I want. How is it that you would have or optimize for a search like that when a lot of the traffic comes from users that aren't even sure what it is that they're hoping to find?
So, I'm sorry, vacuum metallizing?
Correct.
To be honest, I'm not even familiar with the term. Evaporating metals inside a vacuum chamber. Okay. So so your company, do you want to be found for chrome plating or do you not? Like, are you getting untargeted traffic or no?
They are like chrome plating, so it's called vacuum platers. So they don't actually make real chrome. So when a lot of people will search for chrome metallizing or chrome plating, they'll go to them and they'll be receiving calls from them, or they'll go to their website and they'll see that, and they are realizing, hey, we don't actually want this. So how is it you would?
So it's not actually chrome that they're making, but it's something similar. Am I understanding that correctly?
So basically, like, imagine making a surface that was shiny like chrome, but it's not actually the process of being chrome itself.
I would actually, since most people don't understand what the difference is, right? Vacuum metallizing probably isn't the top of mind. I would actually probably focus on, those searches that they're being found for, chrome plating, what have you. And I would really focus on, these 150 characters in the meta description to say something along the lines of, looking for chrome plating, check out this incredible alternative, better than chrome, check it out now. Something like that, right? So you get people to understand, hey, this isn't what I'm looking for necessarily, but maybe it's a good alternative. And when they get there, make the distinction very clear. SEO is not just about driving traffic. It's also about, conversion. It's about user interface. It's about what happens when they're on the page as well, and that's something that gets overlooked. So you need to be very upfront about the information you're providing. So if you're getting untargeted traffic or the wrong types of calls, that tells me that A, people coming to you from the search engine were either misled or unintentionally misinformed, and B, when they got there, they were still unclear what it is that you're offering. So I think there's two pieces to that.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, that was Jacob. He's the one that got the extra credit for.
Yeah, Jacob. Thanks for the tweet.
The overachiever.
Yeah.
Or the bad student who wants the extra credit. One of the two.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the only problem is in this class, extra credit doesn't mean anything.
Hey.
Let my hopes and dreams.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Nothing. All right.
So I guess my question would be, we're seeing a lot of tools and we're seeing a lot of things and we're seeing a lot of stuff, but why is it at the big picture level, why is it that we need to know what these tools do and what is it that they're giving us so that we can then help the people that are our clients? What is it that they're actually giving us? Because there's a bazillion tools out there, and everybody uses them different, and everybody has their own stuff.
Yeah, I agree. So the thing with the tools is, for example, when we're looking at link building and link analysis, it's unfortunate. I'm going to get a little meta, step back and philosophize for a bit. But, Google's intent and the mission that they continually reiterate is that they want to provide the user with the most relevant information, right? But it's almost contradictory in a way, because on the back end of that, they are almost forcing people who want to be found or who have historically been found online to either hire somebody to do optimization for them or to take time out of their already busy day when you're running your own business and to try and learn it and do it themselves. So the thing is it's going to continue to go in that direction regardless. Like, I don't know if you guys remember maybe 4 years ago, the Google Shopping, when I mentioned I was working at that sports store, you didn't have to be a PPC advertiser to get your products listed. They just had a form that you filled out. You said, I have this many products, and it kind of auto-generated, and you would just be found organically, naturally. And, came along, they said, you know what, we could make more money with this. So they cut out the little guy again. So I'm saying all this because unfortunately the slant is skewed to the bigger companies who have a deeper pocket, who have a team of people dedicated to doing this stuff. And if that's the case, then they will continue to outrank you. And so what these tools do is they allow you to look at the assets that you have and be able to analyze what's really working for you, what might be working against you, and how can you correct that in a reasonably safe and, you know, not too cumbersome type of way.
Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. One of the things that I was thinking about at the, you know, about the same thing is all these tools tell you the what. You know, you can tell that people showed up at this location using these words. We can see how many of them. We can see their patterns. But what the tools don't do, and where the SEOs and the analytics people and all the professionals come in, is that you become the reason that the person is more important than the tool is because you need to use that tool to give you insight into why the people came to your site. So that's what you're ultimately trying to tell your client or do for your own businesses, is try and figure out why people are coming to your site. What are they looking for, and how can you then better serve those needs? Because you can get lost in the tools. I see Edie has a question.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Edie.
I'll unmute you, Edie. Okay, you're ready to go.
Edie?
Yeah, her microphone had problems last week too.
Hello?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, all right. I had the same question, a question kind of related to the tools. Actually, I kind of agree with what Kevin said about being way too many tools out there and us getting lost in all of the tools. What kind of skills can we actually develop as webmasters that will make us important, even aside from the tools? Because one day the tools are going to change. So what kind of skills do we have to have as webmasters without the tools to actually stay relevant in the SEO area?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad Kevin phrased it that way, because I think for every tool there are, and I'm working out this philosophy as I speak, so bear with me, but I think there's usually three questions, right? And I think there's the what, right? What are you examining? What is this telling you? Why? You know, what does it mean? What does this information mean? And how do you act on that information? You know, when I'm working with outside clients, or I'm, you know, helping onboard some new employees, you know, they'll understand how to perform a link analysis through Majestic or through Open Site Explorer, and you can go and download the backlink data and you can look at it and you can say, oh, okay, well, this looks interesting. But I think the critical piece, and this is where the webmaster comes in, this is where the tool fails to be more than a tool, is you have to know what to do with that, right? And that takes into consideration a number of things. Is the client's ultimate goal to build, you know, brand exposure and just be seen in as many places as possible? Are they trying to get a very specific type of person to pick up the phone and call them? Are they just concerned with getting the most amount of people to their website? And depending on the site, you know, each one of those could be viable options. And so as a webmaster, I think it's important to recognize kind of the overall and kind of this overarching brand association with the client you're working with, you know, understand their goals and kind of the strengths that they bring to the table, and be able to identify the opportunities that exist or the potential negative consequences. And the only way to do that is to do it regularly, to do it a lot, and to keep up to date with industry news and blogs, and possibly even, you know, writing some of your own thoughts and trying to understand the greater system.
What I would recommend from a standpoint of to the students here of where you're at with this class at this point is you guys are starting to wander into looking at how the people's websites are sort of stacking up within these tools. I think this would probably be a good time, if you haven't had the conversation with your partner organizations already, to ask them what is the goal of their website. And you may be surprised that they don't know what the goal of their website. Some of them may have very clear goals. Some of them may have no idea of their goals. So ultimately, if you're using tools, those tools should be feeding into a process of helping them to establish their goals. So that's going to be a critical thing for you to include in your site analysis is get your partner organizations to define, or if they haven't already, because hopefully that's one of the things you talk to them about early in the semester. What is your goal, and how can these tools help to allow them to get to that goal? So if their goal is to sell ice cream sandwiches, and you don't have the keywords for ice cream sandwiches, then what that tells you is you don't have those keywords so that people can't find you to sell more ice cream sandwiches. Or maybe it's synonyms or some other way of finding ways for people to get to their site so that site can achieve its goals. Ultimately, that is the question that everything comes back to, is what is the goals of your site, and how is whatever you're doing, in this case for your partner organization, aimed at helping them to achieve their goals?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I wouldn't even give half of the people credit. I'd say the vast majority of people don't know, especially small business owners. You go into a small business trying to pitch your SEO service, the first thing they're going to say is how much money, because, it's all on them. And, it comes down to this level of education, helping them understand that it may not be a direct ROI reflection, right? If you give me $1,000 a month, that I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to increase your sales by an additional $1,000 a month. That's not how it works. So when you do understand those goals, and that's kind of the hardest piece, again, if you ask a small business owner, what are your goals with the site? They're going to say, I just want to sell more. I just want to make more money. That's what a lot are going to say. And so, it comes down to you to almost being kind of a management, a client management evangelist, just working to help them understand that you can have specific goals and you can walk them through the steps to get them there. But, if you walk into something where a goal is undefined, then that's just going to come back and bite you in the buns, because they're going to feel like they didn't get a return when in fact, they don't understand what was being returned. So yeah, I would definitely start at that level. Building the relationship before a sale is made, understanding truly what it is that they're looking for, and kind of the challenges they're up against. And again, as webmasters, this stuff isn't terribly complex for the most part. It's really not. On-site tends to be fairly easy. It's just time consuming because every page has got to be customized, but there's, it's not a rocket science formula. Building links, it takes some skill, but again, that just comes with doing it a lot. So the more you find yourself in the position of just doing these things, I think it's just going to start clicking more and more and will become a little bit more seamless with every time you do it.
Okay, anybody else have any more questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, about the offsite SEO, the video that was created earlier, he actually spoke about having inbound links to your sites. Could you just expatiate on this a little bit, and how we could work towards having inbound links to help our site authority?
Yeah, so that's, the inbound links are when we talk about doing a link analysis or, any of the stuff in this chapter, for example, if you're looking at my screen, those are all inbound links. And so there's a few different ways you could get those. One is content marketing. So you'll see, like, you guys see those infographics that are everywhere, right? That's one way, because you can build a snip of code and say embed this infographic on your website. Well, what it does is automatically, when somebody does that, it gives you a link back to your site saying that this is a quality piece of information. You could do the same thing by, I don't want to confuse, but guest blog posting. Now, 6 months ago maybe, Google came out and said guest blog posting is negative and it's bad. But what they were talking about is what I referred to earlier, is these kind of spam blog posts where you just go onto these networks and you put up a useless piece of information and just over-optimize a link back to your site. But if you visit sites like Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal, this type of thing, most of the writing on there, most of this stuff is all written by people who are not on staff. You know, all these articles on this highly authoritative site are basically all guest posts. So when I say, you know, guest blog post, find a place that's authoritative and relevant to your site, go out, give people a piece of information that they can find useful and valuable. That's another way to build it. You can look at high quality directories. Like I said, there's some paid directories. You know, Best of the Web is one. Joe Ant is another. You know, there's some review places. You can build local links, which is, for local businesses, very, very good. So think local chambers of commerce, local newspapers, and radio stations. And you can get links from those guys just simply by, I guarantee if you call a local newspaper and you have a level of expertise in something and you say, you know, I'd like to write a column or something. I've done that in the past. I've written bi-weekly columns for magazines. You get a link back to your site. It's from a local source. It's from a reputable source. This is good. You know, there's social media, and this is kind of a gray area here, but you can actually build some authority around your links or your website by, you know, linking back to it through social media. But also, the thing with the social promotion is you don't want to just try and continue to link back to your website all the time. If you do build an infographic, you know, promote that, because the more shares that infographic gets, and then the more times people embed that code and link it back to your site, it's this kind of exponential ripple effect. So, you know, there's innumerable ways to build links back to your site. But as a small business, I think the most critical piece is focusing on your local markets. You know, a lot of small businesses sponsor golf tournaments or, you know, some local type charity event. You know, if they do that, get them a link back to the website from whatever, you know, the Chamber of Commerce is, or that information. Focus on local first, because if you can't dominate your local area, if you can't compete, then there's no point in even looking at some of these other slightly more complex methods. So I would just start simple, reach out to people in your community. You know, I've even had clients work, you know, if, for example, you are a white-collar crime lawyer, you know, you could reach out and look at people in kind of complementary industries, so fiduciaries or insurance people, financial advisors. You know, reach out to them and almost have a bit of a collaborative partnership where you guys can share each other's information and stories. You know, I hate saying it because it's everywhere on the web, but a lot of it is about building relationships, because once you get in with some people and you understand and start seeing how they can help you, you know, the opportunities just present themselves more than you can even consider right now.
If I could step in here, if I was to say, okay, let's start building some link juice for this program, and we've got, you know, 10 partner organizations here. If we said to each of them, hey, you know, we're doing this SEO audit for you, would you please link back to our page? Then all of a sudden we start building link juice in a very organic way, in that we've established a natural relationship with these people, and so that is a way to start at a small scale, building it up. So it's about real relationships, I think, is what it comes down to.
It is, and like I said, that sometimes sounds generic or vague, but at the end of the day, for small local businesses, I don't know that there's anything more compelling right out of the gate. So, and it also, when you do that, when you have, local or industry partners like you just mentioned, that gives you link benefit, but it also gives you a customer trust, right? People come to the site and they say, I'm involved with these other, groups, organizations, that gives me a bit more trust in you, right? I'm going to be more comfortable giving you my money.
Right. That's what it's ultimately about, right?
At the end of the day.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Okay. Well, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Josh, for stepping in and covering for Ryan. I don't know if all of you heard, but Ryan's last day with Thomson Reuters is, I think, tomorrow. We'll still have a relationship with him through Minnesota Search, and I put in the word yesterday. I went to Minnesota Search and I asked if we could arrange to come as guests for sort of like a field trip to one of their monthly meetings where they have, like last night they were talking about the what's beyond the what of Google. The next month is going to be focused on local. So I've asked them if we can start establishing a relationship with that organization, and part of that would be the ability to bring any of you who are willing and able to go to one of their meetings this semester along to it. So I'm working that angle. I'll let you know more about it as we come along. But that kind of an organization is, especially if you're in Minnesota or the Twin Cities area and you're thinking of wanting to work in this, being associated with an organization like that is going to be, it's going to put you in front of the people who are hiring, and it's going to put you in front of the people who can help to elevate your level of knowledge. And actually, the questions that I asked today were spawned by the conversation last night of, it's not just about tools. The tools are just that, tools. What is it that we're really trying to do? And so, got me thinking about how can I bring that into class. So hopefully we will be able to arrange a time when we can all go to that this semester. I'll keep you guys informed about that. So
can I jump in real quick?
Please.
All right, somebody had asked a question earlier. I'm going to share my screen again real quick. I don't remember who it was, but I think it was the print shop guy. Is he still on the line here?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is that tool. I put them in the comment section as well, Kyle, so you have the ones that I brought up today. But if you go to Ubersuggest, I just typed in the word juice just to see if it was working now, and it is. But what I meant by keeping it in theme, right, is when you type that in and you click on Juice Plus or Juice Cleanse, for example. Like you had a page on Juice Cleanse. You could have Juice Cleanse recipes, weight loss, benefits, right? So it gives you kind of the long tail variations of a specific phrase. And just by typing in one word, juice, it comes up with all these ideas kind of automatically for me. So for your print shop, I would highly suggest using this tool. And the cool thing about this too is you just click the plus button and everyone you want to add shows up on the right hand side when you're done. You can just get it, copy, paste it, and throw it into the Google AdWords tool and see which one's going to work for you.
By the way, I have added all those links that he with everything that he's talked about today, all the news sites. I added it to the resources group of links that are in this week's in Learn It UW Stout. So I added all those.
Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that.
I keep getting the sorry wrong CAPTCHA on that site.
That's what it was doing for me earlier. There may be some server issues, so try it tomorrow. But Yeah, I just saw that it ran for me. So in any case, it usually works. I don't know what's going on with it today.
Well, that's the rule of demonstrating technology. Anytime you use technology to demonstrate technology, it's going to fail.
Sounds about right. So.
All right, thanks again. Really appreciate the insight. It brings it at a quite different angle than what we got from Ryan, and that really helps us to get a broader picture. You've been really helpful. I appreciate it. And if there's anything that I can do for you, just let me know.
Appreciate it. And if you guys think of questions later, Kevin, feel free to shoot those over to me in an email. I'm happy to answer those.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right. Do any of you guys have any questions that are related to the class or what we're doing right now?
His assignment for them is basically showing you that we're doing these steps.
Yeah, I mean, I've got those assignments on the schedule. That's really more of a, hey, this is what you need to be looking at this week, rather than a formal assignment. Because I'm not gonna, you don't get points for those assignments. The grading is all those things are going to contribute to the final project, and so you need to be doing these steps along the way so that as we learn about on-site optimization, look at your partner's on-site stuff, put that into there, and it's just a checksum to make sure that you are making progress towards it. Did that adequately answer your question?
Correct.
Any other questions?
Hi, Mr. Kevin. Would you be in your office tomorrow?
I've got a training class tomorrow morning, and I may or may not be in the afternoon. If I come in, I can email you.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Send me an email to remind me, though, please, Edie.
Okay, sure.
All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the recording and close this meeting. Thanks a lot, guys.